Good evening and welcome to tonight's edition of Fact Sheets live on ETV, live on NISIM 95.9 and 100.1, also live on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. Tonight, we are coming to you from the house of a very popular politician, a statesman for that matter, a founding member of the NPP and a soccer enthusiast. Tonight, we are in the house of Dr. Nyaho Tamakloe. We are talking Ghana. We are talking a party he loves so much, the NPP. We are talking about the NDC, and we are talking about the Electoral Commission. We are talking about his views on where we are as a nation. And so, you're welcome to share your thoughts, your views, and your comments with us, even as we engage this prominent, seasoned politician tonight. Doc, good evening.
Good evening.
I'm hoping you're doing well today, sir.
I'm fine.
You're doing well.
Yeah.
Thank God. Let me ask how you'd describe Ghana today. How would you describe Ghana?
How do I describe Ghana? I mean now or today?
Now.
I think this country at the moment is not going the right direction.
Okay.
That is my personal opinion.
Okay.
Because I've been lucky, if I say so, though I was very young then, about the age of 13, 14, when we had independence. And I saw the serious effort that then President Kwame Nkrumah put into the running of the affairs of this new nation born. And how he put certain structures in place for us to take off smoothly as a nation. Now, if I can remember one or two, as I said, by then I was a small boy, but one can still see things clearly. He started with the building of numerous secondary schools across the country. And one significant thing that he did, that always surprises me, but lately I have come to understand it, was the fact that they made sure there was a crisscross of young people across the country. I'm talking about students.
Okay.
So if you happen to come from Bolga or somewhere, you'll find yourself in Cape Coast or Keta. I continue like that, And that helped to build that sort of unity that he was looking for. But without unity, you can never run a nation. Now, in Nkrumah's time, the word tribalism, I never heard it. Indeed, when you are filling a form and they write a tribe, some of the teachers will ask you to cancel the tribe. Okay. I remember vividly. Now, as we went on, unfortunately, he was removed when he was trying to get us on the track that would have probably brought us to the level of Malaysia and Singapore now. Because we started with Malaysia and Singapore from the same graph. If you watch, I'm not an economist, but if you watch the graph carefully, you can see that we started from the same, we were doing very well until 66 and his removal. Now, a lot of people don't know that Nkrumah had tremendous foresight. Initially, I didn't understand me either. Even when I was in secondary school, I never understood it, what sort of policies he was following. But when I started university abroad, and I saw how the European nations, and I had the opportunity to travel a lot, so I saw quite a few of the European nations in the US. Then I said, there's a leader with a vision. Now, mind you, during that particular era, was the same era that the Chinese were trying to get themselves organized. The same era, Mao Zedong. So if you sat now and you thought about where the Chinese have reached, in less than 40 years. And where we are now, even comparing ourselves to Malaysia and Singapore, we started with them from the same level, almost independence at the same time. So that tells you there's a problem. And as I said earlier, point that Nkrumah put in place, those I can remember, he built completely the New Township. He moved them because he wanted the harbor to be there. So he had a complete new harbor at Tema. Formerly it was only Takrady, built by himself, Gordon Gotchisberg, I think in the 20s, 27 or so. You follow me? Then he put in place a Ghana Law School. So you can know that this is a man with vision. Because formerly, if you want to do law, then you have to go to Europe. If you don't have the money, then you are stuck. Then, of course, he brought in the Ghana Medical School, which he started right from the base. Now look at the number of medical schools we have today. So looking at Nkrumah, his overthrow, there might be reasons people gave why he was overthrown, but if you have read a book of the gentleman from Singapore, what's his name? The Singapore leader who ruled for quite a long time. I'll get a name soon. There are instances where you have to look at certain things and you take decisions in favor of the nation. You follow me? Lee Kuan Yew, that's the name I wanted. If you read a book of Lee Kuan Yew, then you see exactly what's happening. Now, maybe it was the same formula Nkrumah wanted to use, but he didn't have the opportunity. And after the removal of Kwame Nkrumah, since 1966, we've been having coup d'etats, civilian government, coup d'etats, civilian governments, and as a result of that, this nation is not progressing. You can see a nation that has been born, is it 65 years now? Look at where we are. We are just backward, period.
I'm sure the modern day politician would disagree with you. The modern day politician would point at airports, new medical facilities. The modern day politician would point at new roads they are building, some schools they are built, the technology infrastructure which they would say they are built. The modern day politician would disagree with you.
Which modern day politician? Come out to some.
Your own political party, the NPP.
Look, maybe I might have forgotten to mention one or two things. You see the Tamamoto way. Yeah? That's the work of Nkrumah. That is a man with foresight. You follow me? It's been there for over 60 years. Even now that the road is badly damaged, we can't maintain it. Badly damaged. To me, it's even a death trap now. Badly damaged. You can't at all, you can't at all, what do you call it, put it in order. Do you follow me? Now, Nkrumah built numerous feeder roads, numerous. Because by then the country was not really open. He built numerous feeder roads, you follow me? Then after that, there were main roads leading to principal areas. Accra, Tamale, Accra, Kumasi, Accra, Secondary Takrady, Accra, Keta, Accra to Lome, Accra to all these things were the work of Nkrumah.
Let me position
before, of course, there have been improvement. But it's a shame. A nation that has been in existence for more than 60 years, we don't have dual courage from Accra to Kumasi. Neither have we got any good route from Accra even to Ho. You follow me? Or even from Accra to our next most important border, Togo, or even Ivory Coast, to Akarich. So what are the rules we are talking about? We have not really performed the way we should have performed. And I gave you examples of countries that started with first from the same. In fact, we were richer than them. I'm telling you, go back to the history books, you see, our per capita then was far, far higher than Singapore. They were poor.
What's been our problem? What's been our problem over the period? What's been the issue with
to me, our problem has been a very simple thing. Our leaders have always been thinking about themselves first before fixing the nation itself. In fact, that is even showing now. Amassing wealth, that has always been the objective of political leadership in this country. And I'm speaking with authority because, you see, we had example. That's why it's so painful. When ministers in Nkrumah's era amassed wealth. Indeed, he was compelled to come out with the so-called Dawn broadcast, where he even said 1 man, 1 car. Which follows, he was sensitive to what was happening. When he gets to know about it, he acts immediately. You don't see that now. You follow me? So we have young boys now. Their main objective when they leave high school, some of them even didn't go to high school. They leave universities to jump into the political fray, just looking for money. We have many of them. We know where the properties are.
But ain't the youth
a country being run that way, when individuals scramble for their personal wealth, naturally the nation itself will not push forward. So you can't develop a nation like this. Look at countries like America and Britain, where people pay taxes because they know they pay the tax to enable the government to come up with projects that will benefit everybody.
It's interesting you speak this way because I've seen pictures of you with great men. I know you had good relations with the former president, John Nkrumah.
Yeah.
I've seen you and John Rawlings. I've seen you join Dramani Mahama. I've seen you, President Nkrumah. All these people are people that you have had close contact with, and yet this is where we are. Would it not translate to you if you're not able to influence them to do the needful in terms of the Ghana you want?
You use the word influence. Now let me take you step by step. I've known Addo for years. For years. I have always believed that he was a Democrat. I've always believed in that. Until lately, when certain developments took place in our own party, I realized that all that he has been doing or been saying is just a facade. I have known Kufuor for years. I was very close to Kufuor. Indeed, when we were fighting dictatorship under Jerry John Rawlings, Kufuor was one of the front men. Many people don't know. I remember one time we were going to have a demonstration, and I called him. And then that was a Kwame demonstration. And they said, oh, Nyaho, I have to go to Kumasi. I said, don't go to Kumasi. If you go to Kumasi, or if you did travel to Kumasi, that will cost you politically. He stayed. And this is a man who listens to advice. I want you to see the difference. You follow me?
What did you ever tell President Nkrumah that he didn't listen? If you've given me an instance where you told former President John Nkrumah something which he listened. What have you told Nkrumah that he hasn't listened that you feel it was prominent to have turned the tables around?
No, I have been close to Addo. I told you right from the onset.
Yes.
I was very instrumental in his coming to the leadership of the party. Now, after the leadership, when he took the leadership position, his approach to certain issues and his attitude towards certain things changed completely. And I'll just name one or two. We had a national delegates conference of our party in Tamale, where certain key people were picked through election. They were elected, not selected. One, I think the chairman, national chairman, was then Paul Afoko. Then Sami Crab, a young chap, as a second national vice chancellor, chairman. And the third person, the general secretary of the party. Now, before the elections, I realized my friend was not comfortable with some of these three names I mentioned. But after the elections, the results came out that they won their positions. Almost immediately after their selection, the election, all we heard was that they have been suspended, the three of them. You know, this is not a new story.
Indeed.
I was shocked. Now, before that time, you were asking me if I have advised him, he's never done it. Before that time, by then, Nanado was not in the country. I think he was in the US on official business. He wasn't the president, but he was the leader of our party. There was a case involving, what do you call it, a member of the party who I hardly knew at that time, threatening and all sort of things. And I think he ended up being arrested by the police because he went far and even calling for an attack on certain tribal elements in this country. I'll just be quiet on the name for a lot of reasons. Not that because I'm afraid of the person. Now, I personally went to Nanado at his Nima residence, a place I have been going quite often from our infancy, and handed over to him the press release of most of the press houses, and advised him that he should not just sweep this or swept it under the carpet. I didn't go alone. I went with somebody. Nothing happened. Absolutely nothing happened. And I was surprised. Because normally, if there's something that I try to draw his attention to it, he listens. But the moment he became the head of the party, they changed in several ways. And I'm not the type who likes to force things on individuals. I'm the type who prefer that I advise you, if you take it, it's accepted. And I never advise anybody twice in my life, never. So when we had the suspension, indefinite suspension of the national chairman of the party, the general secretary of the party, and the second national vice president, I said, I've lost my friend. In the sense that you can see that he is now in hands of different people.
You earlier said that the whole perception you had of him as being a Democrat was a facade.
No.
If he was a facade, what is he?
No, but you can say things yourself.
Yeah, but I would want to hear how
No,
would
no,
you
no.
describe
You
him?
can say even what happened. What happened 2 days ago in Kwabu with the gentleman by the name Brian Chamber. I don't even know him. They are running the party now. I don't know him. What happened just about 2-3 days ago tells you clearly that my friend is not in charge of the country. He's not in control.
The person is not in control of the
I
country.
am telling you, look, I say I know Akufo-Addo. If he were to be in control, he would have fired that boy immediately. Something Kufuor would do. I'm telling you, that boy couldn't have behaved the way he behaved under Kufuor. See, because we are trying to build a nation. I keep on saying that all the time. The problem we have all over Africa, the simple fact, apart from the problems leadership gives, we are not together as people. So the moment you are able to draw lines amongst people, you finish them.
Your comment doesn't situate the conversation properly. So the person is not a Democrat. So who is leading us? The person who is leading us now, what is ideological mindset?
Look, I say I have known Addo. We have been to court on several occasions fighting dictatorship. Myself, himself, Charles Brobe, Kwesi Pratt, Kukubaku, I can't name them, you know. Go to court. A lot of you don't know that what you are enjoying today, free press and so-called radio and television, free, private, this thing, was the work of Charles Brobe. Dr. Brobe, Brobe. It wasn't easy. Now, he himself, I don't believe he owns even a microphone somewhere. But he's the originator of what you are enjoying today.
Interesting.
Now,
Would I be fair to you? Would I be fair if you say that he fought dictatorship? Would I be fair to say that he's practicing same?
Look, what happened in Nyaho has to walk on. By then I was not even in the country, but I followed the events carefully. That was what, to me, broke the camel's back. But I can't imagine Akufo-Addo under his leadership. You have militia in what do you call combat dresses with rifles and guns in their hands. No Democrat behaves that way. It's been done before in history. Mussolini tried it, he failed. He ended up being hanged. Adolf Hitler tried it, he failed. He ended up committing suicide. And I know my brother knows all this. So why militia to run a government? So when I say the man I knew as a Democrat is no longer a Democrat, to me, because if you want to run a government and you don't want problems, you want to run rare democracy, there's no need for militia. And look at the behavior of this militia and the impudence they have been displaying.
Earlier, I saw a release from you on the Brian Achampong comments where you described his actions as senseless and unsolicited. Why that, strong-worded, statement from you?
I think I've been charitable. I'm being frank with you.
Really?
I've been very, very charitable with my words. If it has been about 10 years back, I would have said worse things. Because this is a young man who has acquired massive wealth, massive. I use the word massive. If there is an independent body today to ask him to explain how he acquired this thing, he can never prove it. I know what I'm talking about. Mind you, I've been a military man before. So when it comes to intelligence work, I have been taught how to go about that as well. You follow me? Now, such a person to have that audacity to incite people. What he did was incitement. We've done it before. You follow me? And when you incite people, then you know what you stand on. And so a couple of weeks back, or even months back, he was virtually begging the vetting committee in Parliament. I'm telling you, I watched this carefully. Don't let my age deceive you. I'm a very strong man. I can even drive from here to Kumasi. You follow me? I thank God for that. Now, such a man who few weeks or months ago was virtually begging the vetting committee. In a lot of cases, he was even helped by the then chairman of that committee. There were questions he was asked he couldn't. You can see clearly. Anyone who has done psychology will know that this man is telling lies. Yet, he was made a minister. Even just last night, I was watching a program of the gentleman, what's his name? Kevin Taylor, or whatever they call him. And the gentleman came out with certain facts. Of course, some of which I know. I was shocked how such a person can pass through the net, the security net, and be made a minister. And worst of all, get close to national security. I will see what Parliament will do about that.
But I'm sure you've heard from your party, your political party. They are behind Mr. Barry Champon. They say that what he said, he was responding to a comment, and so they find nothing wrong with
You
his
know what
comments.
that means?
What does it mean?
It tells you clearly that they have destroyed our party. That's a clear sign that the NPP that I knew, headed by people like B.J. Darocha, people like Kwame Tienim, people like Professor Dubuahini, people like Tolona and others, that cannot happen. Look, I'll give you a few instances. I've seen few elderly men as a young man when I was with them, who were in the same tradition. They fought for this nation, and they never owned a property till they died. One, to me, I met him personally when I was in detention years ago. He was also in detention. William Oforiatta, known as Pawuli. J.H. Mensa died without a pin. If I'm telling lies, let anyone come out and say what I'm saying is not true. Darocha had nothing to write home about. You follow me? And some of them, look at Kwame Pienu now. You see, strong Kwame is far my senior. His mind is clear. He's a great man. What advice Kwame hasn't given this government? Have they listened to him? Especially Oforiatta. So when we have now picked new leadership of our party, and things are going the way they are going, it tells you straight that the party has been totally destroyed. And I've said it on the platform before. Some of us, we pray to God that He gives us more years. We shall come to reorganize that party to be the party that was known years back.
And you're watching Fact Sheet live on ETV, live on NISIM 95.9, 100.1. We're taking a short breather. When we come back, we'll continue with his thoughts on the IMF, the Electoral Commission, the NDC, and the next election. To stay with us. And welcome back to Fact Sheet live on ETV, live on NISIM 95.9, 100.1, live on Facebook as well. Tonight, my guest is Dr. Nyaho Tamakloe. We're talking about everything Ghana. So, Doc, before we went for the break, I mentioned that we would take a look at the Electoral Commission. They had taken the CI to Parliament, hoping to have used only the Ghana card as a sole document for registration when it comes to the next elections. They have been told to come back with the guarantor system to be considered. But what do you make of the EC so far, especially with the new appointments which have been made by His Excellency the President. The 3 people who have joined, and the concerns about the fact that some are known NPP folks.
I think let me start with the Electoral Commissioner herself, whom I would say, to some extent, I know. I haven't seen her for years, so I know both himself and the husband. The husband started that institution, IEA. And when it was started, those representing NPP, I was among. I remember very well Jones Oforiata, he rest in peace, and others, I think Kwame and some other people. We used to attend. It was a hot debate at that time. Ourselves in the NDC at that time. I know Mrs. Mensa has tremendous experience. And the IEA itself was set up to sort of, I might be wrong, but to educate the political class how certain things are handled in the democratic institution. This is the way I look at it. So when she was made an electoral commissioner, I said, oh, there's somebody who really can handle the position because of her background. Well, when we had the 2020 elections, and her pronouncements concerning figures, I got alarmed. I said, what is happening? To the extent that almost 3 times she came out with certain figures. That surprised almost everybody. Finally, she came out to announce who has won. And let me be frank with you, I got disturbed. She comes from a very good background. I know the late father very, very well when I was a kid. Until I grew up, the late father was a medical man. And I grew up to become a medical man too. And anytime we met, you know, we're very close. Have the chat. I even met him on a few occasions at the IEA meetings. He was coming to listen to what was happening. So I got disturbed. Can anyone influence Mrs. Mensa? I keep on asking myself. I found her to be quite an independent, strong woman. There are certain women you cannot just twist about. But the way things are going now, I'm having that suspicion that she's being controlled remotely or directly by somebody. I don't know. Because the way an electoral commissioner should behave is not the way she's behaving. And I've seen some few. Let me mention the name.
That's fine.
Justice Kingsley Nyina, Justice VCRAC Crab, then Justice, who I think later became even a Chief Justice. He operated during the era of Kutu Achampong, General Achampong, who Achampong wanted to control. And he said no to Achampong. He ended up jumping the electoral commissioner wall to run away. You see, you guys don't know what we've gone through. That's why when people are coming out with such, excuse my language, such silly statement, some of them get alarmed. But we know what can happen. A whole judge jumping a fence to save his life. And Achampong forced his way that he has won the revolution, the referendum. I was then in detention. And that cost him his position as president or head of state. Because it was true that Akufo took over.
Yeah.
You follow me? So I get worried. I have seen electoral commission. Now let's come even lately to, what's his name?
Afarijan?
Who was the last electoral commissioner?
There was Charlotte and then there was Afarijan.
No, Charlotte was recent. Afarijan, that's the guy I wanted to talk about. Afarijan were in the same primary school. Basic, what you call basic school, at the Baka Presby. I think he was behind me a year or two. You follow me? Afarijan has tremendous experience. He comes out to warn us that we should not limit the selection or allowing people to vote just by having what? This card.
Ghana card.
What's the name of the card?
Ghana card.
Ghana card. And it appears we want to ignore it. Let them try it and see. For me, that's all that I would say. Let them try it and see. When Jerry John Rawlings tried 15th May coup attempt and he failed, I have just been released from detention because when Akufo was there, when Achampon was there, I didn't have my freedom. 2 years plus, not me alone, and other officers were then planning to stage a coup. You follow me? Now, when Rawlings was picked, 15 May, and he was going to be tried at Burma Hall. The then Director of Military Intelligence, a brilliant chap by the name Colonel Ano Ujija. Most of you will not know him. He advised government that Rawlings should not be given a platform. Listen to me carefully. Because a similar thing had happened in Cuba before. So you guys have to read so that you know exactly what happened in the world. A similar thing happened in Cuba. When I say Cuba, then of course, then your mind should go to Fidel Castro.
Indeed.
He won government as a director of military intelligence. He knew and knows exactly what was happening. Government didn't listen to him. They gave Rawlings a platform and even allowed the press to come to Burma Hall. Normally, it should have been close court martial, that's what we call it.
Yeah.
It's purely military matter. And when Rawlings spoke, you saw the results. June 4th. Do you understand me? So at times, when experienced officers talk, I'm not saying I was, though I was in the battalion most of the time, there were seniors. We had people like, look, still alive, General Ashley Lassie, most of you don't know him. General, Brigadier General Mensa, he's around, he comes out now and then. He made the effort. Listen to me. I don't hide things. Mensa made the effort. He's alive. You can ask him if I'm telling lies. Himself and General Shelassie to have a chat with Akufo-Addo to advise him on certain issues concerning the nation. Akufo-Addo declined to meet them. He asked them to see his Minister of National Security, Kandapa. I'm sure I'm more experienced in security work than Kandapa. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Because if it were, some of these militias would not be behaving the way they are behaving. To chase a regional representative of his own outfit out of his office, and even went to a courtroom to attack a judge with the court in process. Do you understand me? Yeah. Now people have guns all everywhere in this country. Everywhere. Everybody is holding a gun. I'm talking now about security. Now, when Kufuor came to power, do you know who was head of national security initially? Lieutenant General Hamidu, Joshua Hamidu. And his next in command was Mr. Francis Poku. Not long after that, Hamidu had to leave because of problems in the north concerning chieftaincy matters, which was also a good sign. A good officer, he knows what it's about. So he resigned. Can't happen now. That was during the era of Kufuor. So Francis Poku became Minister of National Security. And I always get up for him anywhere I mention his name. But for him, our era during Kufuor's time wouldn't have lasted. But he showed his experience. You follow me?
The same Francis Poku that later on Kwesi Pratt and Co had to go and defend in his house during the Kufuor era. The same Francis Poku?
It's the same Francis Poku.
Interesting.
Very interesting. The same Francis Poku. But then I was an ambassador. I wasn't here. If I had been around, I would have joined Kwesi Pratt. The same Francis Poku. And recently, I remember I told Kandapa on television discussion like this, that he shouldn't hesitate to get in touch with that man. Whether he's doing it, I don't know. But the man has enormous experience in intelligence work. Mind you, he was an intelligence officer in the police outfit. In those days, they called them special branch. You won't even know him. I don't think you've met him. Francis Poku who operates, you won't know. He will come and sit here, you know he's the one, unless you know him closely. You follow me? The point I want to make about him is that he was able to withdraw from the system, because when we came to power newly, this country was filtered with a lot of weapons. But because the revolutionary era was not really ended. So it wasn't easy. Francis was able to withdraw a lot of weapons from the system.
Interesting.
And he used various ways. Nobody heard of it. No force or anybody. Right now, we have numerous. I keep on telling Kandapa, go to this man and have a chat with him. He might probably tell you what to do.
You mentioned Brigadier General Mensa. I spoke to him, I think, about 2 days ago, or that was yesterday, I believe. And he made mention of the fact that we were at the precipice of collapse, and that if we're not careful, there was a possibility of the things that happened in the past repeating themselves. Do you share that view?
He said that?
Yes.
I have not talked to him. But if he tells you that, he's an experienced officer. Father, he was my senior in the army, senior in age and everything. He's an experienced, mind you, twice chief of defense staff. He's been in this sort of what the military took over before. Of course, he was dragging, but because of his experience, he had to calm them down, manage so that the ship of state is not destroyed. So if he tells you that, he knows exactly what he's talking about. And this is the gentleman I told you earlier on, that himself and another general, a full general, Ashilasi, wanted to have a tit-a-tat with Akufo-Addo, and he declined to meet them.
Let's talk about the opposition, because they also play an integral part in all this. They are waiting to form government if they do in the 2024 elections. Do you see the opposition as hungry enough and being credible enough for the people of Ghana?
Your question again, I didn't get your question. You said, do I see them as what?
As credible
Credible.
to take over the reins of this country? If the people
No,
of
credible
Ghana,
in what sense?
in terms of their genuineness when it comes to the fight against corruption, all these issues that you are raising, the fight against corruption, the protection of the state purse, the patriotism to serve the people of Ghana. Do you find these within the NDC, the new crop of NDC?
The new crop of NDC. That is a big question. You see, in my own party, we have not been able to fight corruption. But we have failed abysmally. I'm telling you. I'm telling you. We have failed abysmally. And it's very sad. Because these were some of the things that forced some of us to get actively involved in politics. I don't see the need for me to have even got into politics. I was a physician. You follow me? Many a time I like to give an example when we had Kwame Preko. It was a huge, massive gathering in Accra here. No one has ever done it, and I don't think any demonstration so far has equaled it. But when we went to Kumasi, I personally got scared. Because if you stood on the podium and you watch the crowd, the sea of heads, you don't see the end. So I asked myself, we're just about 7, 8 people. Can we control these people? Believe it or not, when we have asked them that the whole thing was finished, so after the match we addressed them. And we went somewhere near City Hotel to find something to eat. We were there. We were in an old dilapidated bungalow. I don't know who probably even that bungalow belonged to. We were having some breakfast, late breakfast. Then we saw the police car coming. So we all knew we were coming to be arrested. Of course, we were prepared. Then comes in the regional commander of the police of the region. He came to us with a few of his officers, so politely greeted and said, "Gentlemen, your people are still there waiting." He said, "They are what?" He said, "They are there waiting." We talked to them. They said, "You have not directed them to go away." You ask Kwesi Pratt. Kukubaku asked him, he's there. Ask Akufo-Addo, he was there. We have to come back. That place in Kumasi, I always forget, huge place near the market, very huge place. We had to climb the podium again. That's a huge platform. And I remember Charles Brobe was the one who talked to them. He told them in the Ashanti language that it's all over before they left. That tells you the power of the people. No one should underestimate that. Any politician who underestimates the power of the people is not fit to be called a politician.
Do you see that in the NDC today?
Do I see that in what?
In the NDC today, because that's what brought us here. The question about the NDC, whether they are credible enough.
You see, you use the word credible. As I said earlier on, our political class itself, in certain instances and cases, we are not credible. I'm being frank with you. Because people trusted and believed us that under Akufo-Addo, at least we shall have a clean slate, i.e., corruption will be wiped off, tribalism will be wiped up, there will be security. Do we have them now? People have committed offenses. Even we have murder cases that have lasted over 7 years in court. I mean, you don't call this democracy. Cases you can say that there are influences behind. But one day they will have to come out.
Interesting.
The NDC, they should not make the mistake of thinking that with the difficulties Ghanaians are going through now, they have automatic seats. If they thought that way, they will have the shock of their lives.
Interesting. We have just some 2 minutes to round up our conversation, and we can't end without talking about the people who have surfaced to want to lead your party in the 2024 elections.
The people who have done what?
Who have surfaced or put themselves up. There's a vice president who wants to be the flag bearer of your party. There's Mr. Alan Kojo Martin. There's Kennedy Japan. Where you sit, which of them should your party consider for the next elections?
I've answered this question on more than 3 occasions. I personally would have selected or picked Alan Nkrumah. Listen to me carefully.
Okay.
But what Alan Nkrumah should have done earlier, and he didn't do, as far as I'm concerned, I disqualified him. You see, Alan Nkrumah has been with the party for years. They were the young people who were, I think I would say, following this. He listened to advice and stepped down for Akufo-Addo. But Alan Nkrumah, when he was a minister, and there were infractions left, right, center, which he knew about. You can't tell me he didn't know. But he was a cabinet minister. Unless they all just go sit down and listen to Akufo-Addo to talk. Alan Nkrumah should have been bold to say this is wrong. And if government disagrees with him, he takes his pen to resign. So I felt, and I still feel, that he hasn't got that culture of resignation. And it is a culture of resignation that can get us a very good leader and a good government.
You don't believe in the vice president to be a good candidate?
The vice president?
Yes.
Well, I know him very well too. But I don't think he knows the party yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Doc,
Yeah.
I'm grateful you made time to speak to us this
pleasure.
evening. And for the insight, we've learned a bit of history as well from firsthand and your personal experiences. We are grateful for welcoming us into your home and for this beautiful engagement.
It's a pleasure.
All right.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you too. And on that note, we'll thank you for being a part of tonight's edition of Fact Sheet on ETV, on Happy 98.9 FM, on NISIM 95.9 and 100.1. We wish you a pleasant evening.